So, welcome to the B.O.S. podcast, the Business Owner Success Show. This is the place where we celebrate servant leadership, motivation, empowerment, and those courageous game changers who take action to make a positive impact in the world. I'm your host, Jason Delumpa, and today we have a guest who truly embodies everything we stand for. He's helped thousands of people get unstuck and find their purpose, and he's just not a speaker and a coach, he's an obstacle buster himself. He's even completed a marathon, which gives him a unique insight into grit and perseverance. So get ready to rethink what it means to lead, because our guest believes that true success is about people, purpose, and making a difference. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to the wise, the winning, Mr. Warren Wandling. Warren, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, awesome. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that warm introduction.
Absolutely. Warren, I'm thrilled to have you here, and I know our audience will be delighted to hear your stories and insights. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, perfect.
Now, your work is all about helping purpose-driven leaders.
Mhm.
What is the core of your personal leadership philosophy, and how did your diverse experiences in management, recruiting, and coaching shape that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So around purpose driven. So taking a look at from the advantage point. So because I have a strong recruiting background, that was part of my career. I learned that it wasn't just around someone's resume that was really their true purpose or who they really were. There was somebody deeper around that resume. And so management, I realized from a management perspective that title isn't leadership, influence is leadership. And I tie all of that together from my coaching background because I'm also a leadership coach, and knowing that individuals are deeper if they can discover what their true why is. So their
Hmm.
why is that purpose. And the purpose is that driving force is going to shape their level of influence for them to be able to change inside as well as to make an impact with the teams that they lead.
Wow, that's a powerful perspective. Thanks for sharing that. How do you help people find their why?
So I think finding your why or your purpose is actually an inside job. So it is not something that you have to discover, but actually be willing to um, expand upon your thoughts around several different key components. So when I work with a client, helping them to discover their purpose, there's actually several different strategies I use to help discover what that is inside of them. So let me give you some of those ideas. So the one of the first things we talk about is their values. So I believe that the values are going to help really connect with your true purpose. And the value set is really important for someone to be able to discover. And what I suggest is that actually you come up with 5 specific values. And there's several methods that you can come up with. The first starting point that I have is just search online. If you just search online in reference to values, there's like thousands of lists of values out there. But that's just a starting point. I just want the client to be able to start thinking of possibilities of what values might look like. And so because what I don't want them to do is go, I like that word. I like the word
Yeah.
commitment, or I like the word integrity. That's my value. But that's just a starting point. We really have to test it to make sure that that's truly their value. So there's a tool that I created called the values window, and there's 4 specific components and questions that give the insight into what their true values are. And once they identify those true values, then we rank those values in the level of importance. And the reason why you want to do that is because when you're working, let's one of their values was family, but one of their other values was maybe career, for an example. But family was really more important than career. But they find themselves working late, or maybe missing maybe a recital for one of their kids or a soccer game. And inside they feel this, there's a tension that they feel. Well, the reason they feel that tension is because they're not honoring their true value. So they have 2 choices. They can either put work career ahead of family, or they can decide to be able to adjust their schedule so they can be congruent with their true values.
So alignment.
Alignment, exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Now, you're also a host of your own podcast,
Yeah.
How to Become an Obstacle Buster. In your view, what's the most significant obstacle a leader faces when trying to align their business with a higher purpose? And what's the very first step they should take to overcome it?
So great question. So self-doubt, like
Self-doubt.
self-doubt, and I see this at every level of, I don't care if you're at the C-suite or if you're just starting out, self-doubt shows up. And sometimes it will outly show up as the imposter syndrome. And that sounds
Mhm.
something like in our heads, like I'm not good enough. There's no way that I should be doing this. No one will follow me. I'm not sure if any of your guests have ever, or your listeners have ever experienced any of those thoughts. But when you have self-doubt, then what shows up is procrastination. What shows up
Mm,
is that you decide, like, oh, I need to start working on X. So let's say that you're going to write a book, but all of a sudden you have those thoughts of I'm not good enough, no one's going to read it, why do I spend the time? And then your behavior follows those thoughts. So all of a sudden you decide that it's on your calendar, but you don't follow through on it because you find something else to do. And so you start procrastinating, or you allow the world of distraction to take you offline, like check your phone one more time. And then all of a sudden it's a week gone by, and then you try to do it next week, but you just fall in that same habit. And so you allow self-doubt to be able to hold you back to break through that obstacle.
wow, that's powerful. Self-doubt. Yeah. I guess what's the solution to that?
So there's several strategies that I teach, that I practice myself. The first thing is really your mindset. You got to be willing to be able to know that what you think, what you say to yourself, actually drives your body into the direction of trying to accomplish your goal. So if you say to yourself, "I can't do this," or "No one's gonna, never gonna purchase my book," or "No one's following me," or "I'm too young," or "I'm too old," whatever that negative, we call that negative self-talk, or others call it limiting beliefs. Those limiting
Hmm.
beliefs are holding you back. So the new neuroscience is all around creating new neural pathways. So, what's fascinating about the brain is that the dominant thought that we focus on is going to produce that energy in your body that's going to move you to accomplishing your goals. So, you have to be focused on the right thoughts to be able to move into action. So, you're relaxed and confident. Every time I connect with people, I add value to them. And I practice those thoughts over and over again. So, what that looks like is actually in the morning, I have what I call the power hour. And I've developed different core disciplines that I do every morning in that set hour. And I use a practice called habit stacking. So, a habit stack is that if I'm already going to do one habit in the morning, I'm going to start another habit on top of that and then have multiple habits. That's how I've been able to accomplish a lot of activities prior, even before I launch my day. I do that practice every morning. And part of that practice is I read my affirmations every day. So I have a list of affirmations that I read constantly in the process that's sharpening me in my leadership skills, communication, emotional intelligence. I focus on specific key thoughts and behaviors that I want to be able to sharpen and improve. The second thing I do, and I pair this with the affirmations, is the power of visualization. Is when I'm sitting there, I'm going to take a few deep breaths just to relax. So you can practice either box breathing, which is 4 in and 4 out, until you relax your body, or you could just breathe in, hold for 4, count, breathe in 4, hold for 7, and then release for 8. Whatever your body to relax. And then while your eyes are closed, relaxed, visualize yourself doing whatever you're let's say you're going to have let's say you're going to have a challenging meeting that day. Just visualize yourself sitting in that meeting. You feel yourself being confident, having that conversation, standing up. Maybe you can feel like it was a win-win conversation, but visualizing it also, it's mental rehearsal of what it's going to look like. And so when you arrive at that meeting, that's not the first time you're there because you've visualized it over and over again.
Wow, powerful. I took some notes there. So mindset, it all starts in the mind, right? And I think I
Mhm.
heard this, yeah, this is from like Louise Hay. Thoughts are
Yeah.
things and things could be changed. So everything starts with your thoughts and working on your mindset, developing those habits, stacking tools. I think that's powerful. Visualization, that's
Mhm.
key. But when I think about it, and um, let me know if I'm right or wrong, but
Yeah.
it all stems from your why, right? Your purpose. Because if you're
Mhm.
thinking like, oh, no one's gonna read my book or no one's gonna listen to my podcast, but you're doing it out of purpose, so it really doesn't matter what they think. Is that
Yeah.
a fair statement?
Yeah, that's very fair.
Okay.
So when you identify with your purpose and you know your true why, that's going to help propel you that internal motivation to
Mm.
do when it's not comfortable. So that's you're gonna be able to move forward. So when you don't feel like doing the activity, whatever that activity is. So let's say if we're just writing a book, you're already scheduled it into your calendar. You're going to do it even if you don't feel like it because it's your purpose that's driving you forward.
Awesome. Powerful. Now, obviously, we're going to encounter obstacles. And speaking of obstacles, let's talk about resilience.
Yeah.
It's such a buzzword, but for leaders and teams, it's absolutely key. Can you
Mhm.
share one or two of your favorite insights or practical exercises from your workbook that listeners could use to build their own resilience, especially during challenging times?
So that is a muscle that you have to build before you face an obstacle. So one definition on resilience is bounce back. Like when something difficult happens, you're going to find yourself bouncing back. So if you look at a palm tree in the midst of a hurricane, it can bend all the way down, but at the end of the storm, it's bounced back and straight. And that's
Mm.
some type of the definition of resilience. But to take it deeper, actually, is to practice hard things so when difficult challenges come your way, you can withstand the storm. It doesn't rattle you. And so some of those activities that I personally do that help develop my resilience. So I am was challenged over a year ago to start taking cold showers. I haven't done the cold plunge yet. I'm working up to it, but I do take cold showers, and it strengthens my resilience because my thought process. So first of all, it goes back to the affirmations. So I don't say I hate taking cold showers because that's not going to help the process, right? So it's no big deal. That's my thought. It's no big deal. Um, and so I like it. It's refreshing. So different thoughts like that helps drive that process. But taking cold showers helps to develop that resilience. A simple strategy that every listener can implement this today if they want to start developing resilience, and they can go do they can research this research. They can go research it on ChatGPT or whatever the case may be in reference to this technique. But a gratitude journal will strengthen your resilience because you're looking for things that you're grateful for. And it's a simple practice that I do every day. In my journal, I write the date at the top of the page, and I write down I write this simple statement, I'm grateful for, and then I write down three things that I'm grateful for from the day before. So because I do it in the morning, so I'm looking at things that I did the previous day. If you're doing it in the middle of the day, you could do three things that you are grateful for that day, wherever you want to do that practice. And then I also choose to write down one win, one thing that I can celebrate because the
Mm.
mind repeats what it's rewarded. That's the
Mm.
exciting thing. The mind repeats what it's rewarded. So I do that practice because I know that I'm going to put myself in the winning mindset because I'm looking for
Yes,
things that I can
absolutely.
celebrate. Because um, a lot of times what happens is we don't celebrate even the big things. Like I'm gonna celebrate when, like if you're in real estate, I'm gonna celebrate when I sell that house, and then you
Yes.
sell the house and you go, I can't celebrate now. I'm gonna sell when I, make the $1 million round table. So we don't celebrate along the way. So celebrating small wins, it can be you made you did the activity, or maybe you scheduled an appointment, or maybe you were managing your emotional intelligence in a conversations that was difficult. Celebrate the small wins.
Absolutely. I love that you shared the gratitude journal. Focusing on what you already have, right?
Mhm.
And when you focus on gratitude, they say that fear disappears, right? And
Yeah.
Tony Robbins says, um, what you focus, energy flows, something like that.
Yeah.
What if,
Energy. Exactly right.
where your focus goes, energy flows,
That's
right? And
exactly right.
so focusing on what you already have is only going to attract more of it. And I love that, writing it down in a journal, speaking it, visualizing it. I mean, that's
Mhm.
going to get you in the right mindset to take action in your mission and your purpose-driven business, right? So
Exactly.
I love your shares, and so practical. Now,
Yeah.
you've also exhibited incredible grit by completing a marathon. What lessons did preparing for and completing that race teach you about mental toughness and resilience that you now apply to coaching leaders?
So that's a great question because training for a marathon over 20, 26 plus miles, right? On the marathon.
Yes.
And it's the discipline to be able to do the run even when you don't feel like it. Because I can tell you, there are
Mm.
many days that I didn't feel like if it's going to be a distant run that I'm going to run. Like
Right.
I'm excited to run 15 miles today, or I also chose to run in all weathers, types of weather. So when it was raining, of course not lightning, but when it was raining, I chose to run. And the reason was because if the race during race day, if it ran, I wanted to be prepared to feel what it was going to be like to run in the rain for that distance. So that just helps continue building resilience. That then extends to career, family, because it's the resilience of being able to do something when you don't feel like doing it, you do it anyways.
Absolutely. It's just like, for example, me going to the gym, I don't feel like it
Yeah,
most of the time. But I
right.
get there, I was like, yes, I got here, I drove here, and I start working out and I get into it. And then
Uh-huh.
afterwards, I'm like, I'm so glad I went to the gym. And
Exactly
then
right.
it just building that muscle, that discipline, it goes into other areas of my life, right? So I'm more disciplined in business,
Hmm.
I can handle if anything goes wrong or disastrous in business, like I
Hmm.
built that resilience. So that's awesome. Now,
Exactly.
Warren, how can a focus on servant leadership inherently make a leader and their team more resilient to setbacks and failures?
So I think there's several different types of leadership. So you have the autocratic leader, top-down leadership, you have servant leadership, and then
Mm,
purpose-driven leader. So
okay.
the difference I think is between purpose-driven leaders. Purpose-driven leaders make decisions through their values and beliefs that show up in their leadership, and servant leadership is they're there to really to focus on serving their team. So it's very similar to the purpose-driven leader. So when the leader shows up from that vantage point, so the vantage point of being a servant leader or a purpose-driven leader, that leader has to have developed themselves first before they can make an impact with their team. So when they show up, they're making an impact because of the energy that they're bringing to the team, because the team is going to be able to see how they're showing up. Meaning that if they already have the skill set around emotional intelligence, they know that if there's something that's difficult, they're going to control their emotions and not affect their negative energy into the group, because that will make an impact positively and negatively. When the leader shows up, that energy is going to be able to make an impact for that team. Others are going to be watching them of how they respond. Like if they're having a challenge, their team is going to watch them how they're responding. And if that leader responds from a servant leadership, like how can I help you? What resources can I provide? Any challenges that you're dealing with, trying to give them the resources they need to be able to excel, as well as a purpose-driven leader leading by their values. That's also going to impact that team as well.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. That reminds me of what John Maxwell says about leadership. He says everything rises and falls on leadership.
That's so true. That's
Yes.
so true. What's amazing is just because there's someone, and I see this in organizations across the size of the organization, if it's a larger organization or a smaller entrepreneurial efforts, if the leader is leading from a strong ego or somebody that it's focused on themselves, that's going to make an impact in reference to the growth of the team. So
Mm,
if they choose to be able to focus on developing their team. So, from a purpose driven leader, you want to be able to leverage your leadership. So, you want to be help to grow leaders within your team, even if it's not by title. You're teaching them how to problem solve, how to be able to manage their emotional intelligence. So, when they deal with an issue, they can manage it from a professional level, or if they need to develop their communication skills, they're comfortable communicating from an assertive communicator compared to aggressive or passive communicator.
Awesome, awesome. As leaders, the first person we lead is ourselves, right? So it's a lot of every day working on ourselves, constantly,
Hmm.
constant and never-ending improvement.
Hmm.
Um, let's shift gears on a topic you're a true expert on: communication and employee engagement. For a small business owner who may not have a dedicated HR team,
Hmm.
what's one simple yet powerful communication tip they could implement today to dramatically improve engagement?
Yeah. So I initially, the first thought that comes to mind is listen to listen, not to respond. Listen to
Mm,
listen, not to respond. And so what I mean by that is that's going to be in the framework of two specific components: active listening and loop listening. So active listening, it's interesting when I do my seminars and I ask leaders in the room how many are really good listeners. Most hands will go up. But when we explore it deeper, what they really are great are is they can hear the message, but they're really not great listeners. Because one of the
mm,
key aspects to be able to test yourself if you're actually listening, if you find yourself formulating how you're going to respond to whatever the other individual is saying, you are no longer listening. So
wow.
you have to be whole body listening, like their eye contact, their body, what they're saying, what's not being said, and listen to it. And one of the ways to be able to do that is to be able to loop listen. And Charles Duhigg wrote a new book on communication. He's written a number of different books, but he brought to the light in reference to loop listening, which is responding back to the individual that you're talking with, what they just shared with you in your own words. And then that person then, it feels like, oh yeah, they're really listening to what I'm saying. They might correct you if it's not exactly right, but they really feel listened and heard. So if everyone on their team wants to be needed and known, and you can
Mm,
simply do that as a leader if you choose to truly listen to your team. So when there's a challenge and and maybe they have more energy vocally around the challenge, you're going to manage your level of emotional intelligence. You're going to let them finish. You're not going to interrupt them, and then you're going to be able to respond. So you want to be able to respond and not react. So
mm,
definitely listen to listen, don't
powerful.
respond.
Wow, that's powerful. Um, I love that you shared that you want to listen and listen, not to respond,
Hmm.
right? And this goes back into sales, which sales equals
Oh
service.
yeah.
Is that your clients or prospective clients, they want to be heard. They don't want to be talked to, right?
Hmm.
And so asking the right questions and really proactively listening and repeat back what they told you is the key to guiding them to their solution and working with a team, right? Employees, like really listening what their needs are, what their issues are, if any, is the key. Communication is the key, and in leadership. So I love what you shared there. Now, Warren, you've trained thousands of individuals in sales and marketing. How does a company's internal communication, how they talk to their employees, directly impact their external success in marketing to their customers?
Well, the way a company or individual leaders treat their internal team is how their internal team is going to treat their customer. So the leader has to ask, is that the way I want them to be able to treat the best customer? And probably the answer is if it's a culture that is not on the positive side, probably the answer is no. So that's a simple fix. That's the simple fix is that the leader
Mm.
needs to be communicate with their team the way they want their team to communicate to their best customer.
Simple but powerful, right? And
Yeah.
I experienced it when working with for a company, and I had a toxic boss.
Hmm.
How the boss talks to the manager, it just goes downwards, like negative to the employees, and employees talk to the customers. It's all negative, but it started at the top.
Right.
This reminds me of billionaire Richard Branson.
Oh yeah. Right.
Studying his leadership style and how
Hmm.
he interacts with his employees. I saw a YouTube video the other day, but he's like high-fiving each one of them. He's really personal. he shares meaningful conversations with them. Like, wow, that's the and everyone's happy. It's like it's
Mhm.
a reflection of his attitude, his leadership style, his communication. But that's yeah, it's powerful. It's how you talk to your employees.
Exactly. And you know
Now,
what's
yeah.
interesting, just a little bit on that um, is because that also impacts the ROI for the leader. Because if you treat your
Mm,
employees that way, there's that internal
right.
company dialogue that they're internalizing their value at the company, and so their level of productivity isn't going to be as high as if you chose to had respect and developed your individuals um, on the team with those core communication skills, which can turn the culture around as well.
That is so powerful and true. Yeah, like valuing an employee could
Hmm.
just make them increase their productivity like 3x, 5x, right?
Yeah,
Say, great job today, keep up the good work. I mean, that could make your day. Like no
yeah,
one told them anything positive, and you go in there as a leader and you help encourage them, empower them. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's gonna return back. I never thought about it that way. But thanks for
yeah.
sharing that. That's awesome insight. Now, in an era of remote and digital communication,
Uh-huh.
Warren, how can a leader ensure their genuine purpose and values are still felt by their team without being in the same room?
So I think it's the same. If we're going to do like on a Zoom call, I think it's the same thing. I think
Hmm.
it's pause, like pause, and when someone's connecting on a Zoom meeting and connecting with the individual the way they like to be treated. So I
Mm,
know the golden rule is treat others the way that you want to be treated, but the platinum rule is what by Tony Alexandra. He created it over 30 years ago, and it's treat others the way they like to be treated. So one of the
mm,
ways is to do that is there are four styles of communication,
yes.
and those four styles are very important to be able to understand your own style, but be aware of the other three. So when you can identify that behavior in others, you as the leader can flex your behavior so you can talk in the style that individual likes to communicate in. And that's going to build rapport, and that's also going to build trust. And as you're building trust, that helps to know that they're being authentic. So if one of your values was is trust, that's
Hmm.
one way to be able to do that is to listen and to communicate it in a method and the process that someone else likes to be communicated in.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, that definitely going to build trust when
Mhm.
you can speak their language, right? It's
Right.
when you say the golden rule, like treat others
Mhm.
the way you want to be treated, but taking an extra step, going the
Yeah.
extra mile as a leader and learn about their behaviors, how they communicate, and learning about them and communicating them where it's effective and they get you and you get each other. I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Wow, these insights are priceless, Warren. Thanks for sharing. Um, to wrap up on a fun note, I've got a
Yeah.
couple of unconventional questions for
All
you.
right, let's go.
If you could host a lunch with any three leaders, living or from history, to discuss purpose and coaching, who would you choose and why?
Okay, so Zig Ziglar.
Zig.
Um, yeah, Zig Ziglar, probably Brian Tracy.
Mm,
Um, you said three. I have to come up with three. So
yes, three.
yeah, you did. Mother Teresa, we'll do there.
Mother
So
Teresa?
Zig
Nice.
Ziglar, because he's one of the ones that inspired me actually to do the career that I'm in.
Hmm.
So that's a long story, but the 30,000 foot story is when I was a sophomore in high school, I went to a Zig Ziglar See You at the Top conference. And
Wow.
so that's geeking out right there. I'm just a geek in reference to personal development. And so that inspired me at a young age because I knew that's what I wanted to do to be able to make an impact in other people's lives. So definitely Zig and Brian Tracy's along the same line in reference to listen to a lot of his trainings over the years and his seminars to help really hone in on the skills on goal setting, time management, communication skills. So definitely that aspect. And then Mother Teresa in the aspect of the humanity level that she brought to her ministry to be able to connect with others that could no way return any of the favors that she was be able to give. So making sure that you stay humble in the process of your career, to know that it's really not about you, it's the people that you serve and lead.
Awesome. Absolutely incredible. Thanks for sharing that. And finally, Warren, you talk about helping people find more time for what's truly important. Aside from your family, what's
Mhm.
one passion or hobby you make sure to protect time for that our listeners might be surprised to hear?
Well, I'm not sure if they're gonna be surprised, but running, I like to run, as we talked about earlier, because I ran a marathon, but that's not something I still do is run. And I know most people listening don't put both of those words in the same sentence ever, like and running, but that's something that I am disciplined about doing the process as continuing to run. So I do different 10Ks. I had the opportunity to run it with my oldest daughter. We ran a 10K over the 4th of July in our local area. In fact, we're scheduled for a turkey trot with some of our family members this year again. So that's
Nice.
definitely things that I protect. Something else, we also like to kayak. So that's something I like to focus on as well.
Nice. So you still run, you said?
Definitely
So
still run. Yeah.
kayaking, I've never explored that. How's that like?
Yeah, that's kind of, it's nothing like being out. I love being on the water. So we're in Kansas, so there's only lakes in this area. So not
Oh,
like anything if you're in Colorado to, White River raft, but there's definitely some nice lakes. So that just being on the water is kind of just it's relaxing, and it's just something different than being in in front of a computer screen or
yeah,
doing training or whatever the
yeah.
case is.
Wow, you get to experience like the full nature and freedom, I guess, being out in the water.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, so Warren, thank you so much for your wisdom and taking time to be with us today. Your message of wise and winning leadership is truly inspiring. To our audience, if you have any questions about leadership or if you want to book Warren as a speaker, you could find him online. Warren, where is the best place for our listeners to connect with you?
So the best place is the website. So that's going to be warrenwandling.com. So WARRENWANDLING.com. So the website, LinkedIn. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, that is definitely where I hang out is on LinkedIn. So you can just search the same handle. It's the same way. Just go ahead and put Warren Wandling and you'll find me there as well.
Awesome, wonderful. And where can they find your podcast?
So anywhere that you listen to podcasts, so on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. So if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, that'd be awesome, as well as Spotify, and then like hundreds of different other podcast hosts. If you just search for the show is How to Become an Obstacle Buster, and with of course my name in there, you'll find that as well.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our boss segment, and I encourage you to go out there and be a wise and winning leader in your own right. Take care and God bless. Thank you so much, Warren.
All right, thank you. Enjoyed it.
We appreciate you. Likewise.